What I can tell you is these guys are going to be disappointed when Trump lets them down, because that's exactly what he's going to do. All right, welcome to another episode of The Brown Perspective. This is RO, and I'm here with my good buddy, good friend, Eduardo. ¿Cómo estamos?
What's happening? How's everybody feeling today?
I'm good, man. I'm
Are you,
good.
are you healthy?
Better than Trump.
That's right. We're sending our thoughts and prayers to our commander-in-chief this weekend as he is dealing with the COVID-19 virus.
It's crazy that the debate was on Tuesday, and all of a sudden, just everyone's forgotten about the debate, and now everyone's talking about COVID and the Trump and the not just Trump, but Melania, and then the House staff, and then two of
Yep.
the members from the Judiciary Committee, and I forget how many others. There's just been so many, and they all point back to the event last Saturday for the reception for the nomination.
Oh, that's probably what happened.
Yeah, there's a picture that someone released that shows that there's at least three of the members that have tested positive, and they were sitting not next to each other, but they were sitting with other people, and I think they were highlighting that those other people may also come out positive. And then Chris Christie also tested positive.
And I guess it's a nice transition from the discussion we were having about the battle for the Supreme Court. And it makes sense that the senators and some of the other political leaders who are going to be involved in the process were at the nomination event on Saturday. And then you had the debate on Tuesday. And I'm dying to hear your perspective on how you thought the president and the Democratic candidate Joe Biden did. And then, of course, we have the announcement that the president had tested positive. The president and the first lady tested positive on Friday or Thursday night, Friday morning.
It's frustrating watching those.
Best debate ever.
It's frustrating watching those debates, man, because it's nothing but spectacle. It's
Yeah.
theater. I know a lot of people are giving a hard time to Trump about how he was childish and interrupting and being petty. But why would I always say this? Like, why would anyone be surprised about the way that Trump acts at this point? Like, the people, they know who they voted for, and the rest of the country already knows who Trump is.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he kind of was the same way, at least some of the clips that they showed with Hillary Clinton and some of the debates that they did. I think maybe the he wasn't as aggressive or, I mean, he was disruptive and interrupting, but maybe it was just more obvious this time around for whatever reason.
Because 4 years ago, he had a lot of ammunition because he
Hmm.
was the outsider coming in. And this time around, he couldn't do that because he had to be on the defensive for a lot of things. 4 years ago, he could have just said whatever he wanted to. And then this time around, they tried to coach him, so he probably held back a bit. He couldn't just shoot off the hip the way that he was doing 4 years ago. So he was a little restrained, but again, just his mannerisms, the way that he's disrespectful, he seemed irritated at times and interrupting Joe Biden. But what's also frustrating for me is that it's so easy, it should be so easy for anyone to debate Trump and to completely discredit the guy.
How so?
Because Trump is an imbecile. He's a child, he's a man child. And so he has a huge ego. So all you have to do to get him off, to knock him off his game, is you just have to call him exactly that. He is a con man. He acts like a child. Every time he interrupted Biden should have just said, "See, there he goes again, acting like a child. Can't even follow simple rules." And this is the guy that the country elected. Is everyone here sure that they want to elect this president again? Can't be taken seriously. He didn't take the coronavirus seriously. Look at all the people that died. Can't even follow a simple instruction in a debate to not interrupt. And I guarantee you guys, he's gonna do it again. And every time he would do that, he just keep calling him a fraud, a man-child. He did call him a clown, and then he apologized for it. That this is Biden. but he shouldn't have
Yeah.
apologized for it. He should have doubled down, and I don't understand why the Democrats hold back. Maybe it's Biden, because Biden was somewhat low energy as well. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, yeah, and I think that was the other part of the disappointment, right? I think part of it was like disappointed by how the president acted, but then disappointment with how Biden responded. And I think, yeah, there were some instances where I think he told him to shut up, man, and and called him a clown. And then, yeah, then he excused himself because in some ways, it is about the office that he's holding, not so much about the individual. But even then, I agree with you that I think he could have taken a more aggressive, proactive way to call him out on his disruptive behavior and how that made him unfit to get another 4 years.
I don't know if this is going to come across as ageist towards Biden, but there does seem to be a gradual loss. He's not as coherent as he was a few years ago. And when he starts talking, it takes him a while to get into the flow. And I don't, that might be the difference between whenever you start or you respond to a question or you start a statement, it's usually you don't, maybe he's not going straight into what he's already memorized and rehearsed. There's a little bit of improvisation that has to go into that. And that's when I felt that he was the slowest, that it was a perceived delay. But then once he would start getting into his message and repeating the talking points, he sounded a lot better. And I thought, okay, he sounds good here. But there were times when I was like, dude, this guy looks slow. His age is starting to come across. And I don't know if it's signs that is just the degradation of his abilities, his speaking abilities, and much more than that. Did you notice that, or was that just me?
Well, I noticed it, but don't fall for the Republican talking points. I think it's the fact that I think he has a lot of things that he memorized, a lot of points, a lot of statistics. And I think there were times where it did look like he got confused and that he was trying to kind of find the right statistics, the right words. So yeah, so I think it's just part of the fact that he came prepared with a more complicated or more messages to try to deliver. And I think sometimes he kind of got lost and confused as to how, okay, I need to respond to this comment, but how do I then go back to the points that I want to make? And I know there were some points where he looked at the camera and tried to really connect with the audience as a way to sort of differentiate himself from Trump.
And so you think that's just the talking point? You don't think there's anything to it besides just that's just how Joe Biden is? You don't think that he's lost a step, that he's not as sharp and as fast as you would want him to be, or as he used to be? Because when I was listening to him, I kept thinking, as he was talking, I kept thinking, man, if Chris Wallace interrupts him right now and makes him have to pivot or makes him have to think about something else, I think it's going to be noticeable. The time that it's going to take for him to process the new information coming in and for him to come back with a response. And so to me, it's something that it's perceivable. I saw it. I also know that the Republicans are using that as a talking point, but
Yeah.
And to try to attack Biden. I mean, doesn't Trump call him Sleepy Joe?
Yeah, he does. But that's the thing. You're talking about complicated, and I think also just think about the exercise. I mean, debating and national TV is a nerve-wracking. I mean, just public speaking in general, and obviously you have Joe Biden, who has done it for a long time, as well as Donald Trump, who has done it now for some time, and he's been in the entertainment business. But even then, you are performing, right? And you have the nerves of the performance. You have what you're memorizing, the points that you trying to make, and then you're dealing with the real on-time situation of what's going on. So I also feel that there's nothing wrong and I think maybe instead of stumbling with his words, maybe, but then that's the other thing. So even if he just pauses or if he does something else to give himself the time to collect his thoughts, maybe that will help him come across as a better presenter. But I guess, and yeah, maybe he is an older person, but I also don't think that just because you're old and it just necessarily impacts your ability to process things
Yeah, and
mentally.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying that that should disqualify him. I'm just saying that in the grand scheme of things, that does seem to hurt him because he couldn't respond to Trump, or he couldn't attack Trump with the same intensity that someone that is at least whose mind is thinking faster and processing thoughts a lot faster, he would have been able to shut him down. That's why I feel like anyone else but Biden would have done a lot better in that debate. To get anyone from the field of Democratic candidates that were running for president, Elizabeth Warren, even Bernie Sanders, even Pete Buttigieg, and then Amy Klobuchar, all of them would have done a lot better. And it's just Biden, it does feel like he's lost a step or two, and that did hurt him because I feel like he could have, there were so many opportunities where he could have attacked Trump. But look, at the end of the day, again, I don't want to focus too much on the politics of the personality politics of these two candidates. It's more, again, what was it that at least that they were both offering in terms of their vision for America? I don't think there was much there, to be honest. And that's why so many people are focusing on Trump's behavior and also on Biden's inability to really come after Trump. You don't really hear people debating any of the policies. The only one that I heard, which is actually a criticism of Biden, is when he made that small gaffe about supporting, or no, he said that the Green Deal will pay for itself. But then later on, he said that he doesn't support it, that he has the Biden plan. But, right, so that's a contradiction because, well, why, if he believes that the Green Deal will pay for itself, then why doesn't he support it? But beyond that, no substantial policy really around healthcare, immigration reform, foreign wars. So then the people are left with a spectacle theater and focusing on personality and the characteristics of each individual.
Yes, and I know that it was referred as a train wreck, a shit show, a low point in American debate history, American presidential history.
The debates have been spectacle for a long time. Now Trump just upped it up a notch. They lost control of the narrative, and they lost control of the situation, and they let a man-child into the debate. Right?
It's true, and I think one of the memorable moments was when he was asked to renounce white supremacy, and he did not, and he actually ended up mentioning the Proud Boys and giving them the command to stand back and stand by, which I think really, that was the other piece that really concerned people in terms of A, him not denouncing white supremacy, and B, sort of kind of giving them that particular group a platform to shine and get that mainstream attention that they hadn't had to this moment.
That part I could see it being legitimately criticized because, like, we've always known that politicians dog whistle, and so they're always delivering specific messages to their base, and we've always known that also that the country is racist. We always know that there's racism in the country, that there's right-wing groups, militias, militant groups that are also racist. We've always known that the KKK exists. But everyone, at least in public, they would pretend like they didn't support any of that. And at least they were consistent in that. And in that regard, Trump has broken away from that and by not pretending like he doesn't agree with what some of his base is doing. Because, stand by or stand down and stand by, well, he's fully endorsing or he's taking like leadership of that. He's acknowledging that he's the leader of them, and he's giving them a direct order, but also stand by as a he's signaling a threat to the rest of the country that come November, if things don't go his way, he might call out to these groups to cause mayhem. So yeah, I think that part should be rightly condemned.
And obviously, but the other thing is, I know Trevor Noah did a skit on this, but the realization that he's had other opportunities to denounce white supremacy, and he has not done it, whether it was the Ku Klux Klan or other interviews and other instances where the media and reporters have asked him, and he hasn't done it. So to your earlier words, there's really no, why are we still surprised about some of the things that he does or doesn't do?
Let me see if there's a wiki page for the Proud Boys, because this is something that I meant to get back to this when it was happening, but then the news of the president contracting COVID took over, so I didn't get back to this. But I know that they're a far right group. Neo-fascists, yeah, you can call them neo-fascists. Nationalists, are they white supremacists? One of the tweets that I saw, it was mentioning that members of the Proud Boys are not just white, that they also have people from other ethnicities. I know that doesn't mean that you can't be a non-white person that joins a group with a white supremacist ideology. I know that the two things can coexist. Proud Boys chairman, Enrique Tarrio, Proud Boys chairman. So see, even just right here on the wiki page, if this guy is the chairman, then clearly not white, could be far right in his ideology, could be a nationalist, maybe not a white nationalist, but maybe a nationalist. And he could also be, he could be a self-hating Latino and believes that the whites are superior. So in that sense, he could be a white nationalist. He's anti-immigrant, expel, get rid of all of the people that are hurting our country and destroying it. It's hard to say. I know that they've been labeling them a white nationalist group, a white supremacist group. I know far right, definitely, militia group, neo-fascists, all of that, but this is the one that I wasn't sure about.
Yeah, and I know the FBI recently came out with a report talking about how, within the domestic terrorist threat, white supremacists are the number one threat right now. So
yeah, so
something that we need to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, so the FBI has classified them as an extremist group. Yeah, extremist group. Definitely. But I think Trump is playing a dangerous game here of encouraging this type of behavior, because now these guys have found who they think is their leader. So it allows them to come together and coalesce around him, especially if he's made it explicit that he acknowledges them, and then he to some extent he acknowledges that he is the figure that can direct these groups. What I can tell you is these guys are going to be disappointed when Trump lets them down, because that's exactly what he's going to do. Because Trump doesn't really have an ideology except the ideology that cares about himself and maybe his immediate family. But these guys will be disappointed, and what's interesting is how are they going to direct or redirect that anger? Maybe it doesn't get to that point, because maybe if Trump loses, then you get to the point where the next step for these guys is to start taking more direct action, and then being more active in trying to do something after the election if Trump loses and he doesn't want to step down. But if Trump wins again and these guys keep going down that path, eventually these guys will find out, either at a personal level or at the group level, Trump will turn them down, because he's a false leader. And unfortunately, they don't understand that it's a millionaire. Bueno, pues, so for everyone, if you guys like this discussion, make sure to subscribe. Follow us at The Brown Perspective on YouTube. Hit that like button also. It helps our videos show up when people search for content. We also have a Twitter page and an Instagram page. You can find us at the Brown Perspective, Brown Perspective TV. Nos vemos.
Ciao.